Are you a light worker and or an empath? And do you feel like maybe things have been a little bit too hard and they could be a bit easier, but you're not sure how to put your finger on why? If so, you're going to want to watch till the end of this video, because in this video I'm going to be talking about soul contracts, what they are, where they came from, and why sometimes there are things in our contracts that are still running today that are causing us problems that we no longer need. And then at the end I'm going to be doing a bit of a revocation so you can help to release them. My name is Adam. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Before we get started, I have a free tool in the description. If you want to download it when the video is over, it will help you do some extra clearing on your karma and your trauma, in addition to what we're going to be doing today. Okay, so recently I was actually watching a YouTube video on Lightworkers, because I definitely resonate with being a Lightworker. And this woman was going through these different types and roles that Lightworkers have. You know, and she didn't cover all of them, but she just was covering some. There's like, you know, the way shower, the light keeper, the grid worker, the healer, the transmuter, and a number of other ones. And I remember kind of reading the comments and seeing a lot of people going like, oh, that's me, or I'm that one, or I'm that one. And I felt very much like I was all of them. And there were a few people in the comment section who said the same thing as I did. But I remember particularly when she was talking about transmuters, because I've known that I've been a transmuter for a long time. I've been transmuting energy for everything in the collective and my ancestry for decades now. And one of the effects this has had on me, and let me know if you relate to this, is like kind of no matter what I've done personally, like things just wouldn't resolve because I was dragging like 75,000 like cartloads of other stuff that wasn't even all mine. And what I've come to understand is that I signed up for that, but why? And where did it come from when I signed up for it? Does this make sense? Does this resonate a little bit? Because if you came here wanting to transmute stuff and heal your, like generational trauma and be of service to your culture, that's great. But it can backfire and you can end up like being overloaded constantly. And the place you want to go, which I'm going to get to at the end of this video, is into the contract that you signed when you came here. One of the first things to understand is that before we incarnate, we sign a contract, essentially. And you can think of that as like an actual written contract or an actual like energetic contract where you set intentions for the life. And we decide we want to work on various things and learn certain things and grow in various ways. And there's different levels of flexibility. Some of us have like more very specific scripted scenarios to play out. Others are more improvisational. But we all have these contracts. Now, sometimes within these contracts, we may have made some doozies of a decision, or we may have gotten a little bit of a bad deal sometimes because that's how the old timeline was, which is where a lot of our contracts came from, the old Earth timeline. What exactly is the old timeline? What are the key things we need to know about it? Well, so the old timeline was essentially before the 2012 shift, and it happened from a much lower level of consciousness, and some would say that it was a hijacked timeline, right? Like there weren't the greatest beings in the universe overseeing the totality of it, and I would tend to very much agree, but I don't want to get too much into that, and that's over now anyway. But there was ideally, and this is how I understand it works now, when you cross and your life is over, you can choose whether you want to come back here or not. But we all kind of co-creatively got stuck in this sort of timeline where when you would leave, you couldn't leave. You had to come back. So they'd tell you things like, oh, you got to come back because of karma, or you have to pay back this energy that you owe to this person because you got to come back and get it right and get it right and get it right. And it would put people into this cycle of reincarnating over and over and over and over again, tacking on more and more karma or debt, right? That's like chronic karma, chronic debt. If you look at the debt-based monetary system and how you can just end up, paying $8 billion of interest off a $10 loan over a long enough period of time, that's kind of energetically how it worked. And so because we were traumatized and because this is how it was designed, when we would sign up for a life, sometimes, there'd be some extra shit written into your soul contract, extra stuff that you maybe didn't know about, or you didn't really need to do, but you believed you needed to do, or there was a lot of guilt that you had because you felt you were bad or wrong or fucked up in some lifetime, and so you agreed to take on extra. And none of that is needed anymore. It hasn't for a while, but sometimes we need to bring awareness into, where these things originated from so that we can really release them and update our roles. So check in and ask your higher self if there were some clauses that you signed to take on karma, to take on energy, to take on things to transmute, or jobs that you signed up to do that aren't in your highest good anymore. You can change your belief structures, but if you have these contracts still strongly in place, it won't matter too much, in my experience. One of the things I came to understand was that we could have been given a lot of extra work to do that wasn't necessary because the level of consciousness on the planet was in a very sort of victim-y sort of mind space, and it was still very externally oriented, like we got to help people and save them and rescue them. We weren't coming from a full-on collective place of alignment. So some of the contracts will reflect that. Like, I'm here to help everybody else, so give me your energy, give me your karma, let me transmute it. That doesn't need to be done anymore. Maybe it never did, maybe it did. Regardless, now, if you're watching this and this resonates, it doesn't need to go that way anymore. The other thing that you can check in with that I've understood about myself was when I signed up for this life, I had a lot of lessons that I was working on learning. And one of the places that I was in was I had a lot of shame. I had a lot of guilt. I felt really bad about myself. So the question for you to ask, which is a question I've asked about myself, what did I take on out of that place that no longer serves me? How much extra stuff did I allow to be tacked on because I felt so guilty and ashamed of myself? And if you're an empath, definitely check in with this. Like, how much of your taking on other people's energy comes from some level of like a contract where you felt bad about yourself, or you felt like you needed to understand what other people were going through. You needed to feel their suffering and their trauma so either you could help them or because you felt bad for things you've done before. And how much of that no longer serves you? Like, I'll give you an example from my own history. Like, I chose to basically try to heal the entire Jewish lineage. And I'm grateful for that, and I've done a lot for them. And one of the ways to get out of these contracts too is to have gratitude for everything that you learn from doing it and to come from a heart-centered place. But sometimes these things, if they're still running in like our contract, can continue to draw in a bunch of unnecessary stuff. So it's been important for me to just be like, you know what, I'm done with this role. I'm not taking this stuff on anymore. I need to live my own life. And the way that I actually be of service now is to shine my light and to be an example of someone who's healed, not continually drawing in, if I have a transmuter contract, it's just gonna be like, here's more stuff, here's more stuff, here's more stuff. Another example was in my personal life, something like this. Remember, I was doing a clearing with one of the women that I've worked with, and she found some part of me that had signed up for the role of like, protecting like the planet from like dark spirits or something, or protecting some realm from dark spirits. So I was always, pieces of me were always out there kind of arguing with dark spirits and trying to keep them out. But that was bleeding into my human life. And it was a role that I didn't need. It wasn't really my job. It kind of came more out of ego than it did from anything else. And I felt like I was responsible. So I took it on subconsciously in other dimensions. But the way that would bleed into a human life is, just think multidimensionally, as above, so below. So if some part of me is out there constantly like butting heads with a dark spirit to try to, keep them out of a certain place or realm or dimension in my human life, well, anytime I go to try to make money or enter a relationship, some thing is going to come in like butt heads with me, which can knock that whole thing off. So check in and see if you have any roles like that. You may not consciously know, because you might not have, be able to like just see in your third eye every aspect, but ask your higher self if you have any of these roles that no longer serve you. So what we're going to do right now is I just want you to call in your higher self, ground a little bit into your body, and give your higher self permission to do like an audit of your soul contract. A full-on audit of your soul contract to neutralize all clauses, agreements, oaths, vows, obligations that you signed up for that are no longer in your highest good. Any light worker roles or shadow aspects of light worker roles that you signed up for that are no longer in your highest good, and to have them cleared, neutralized, have like the wording deleted and replaced with a new updated contract for your highest timeline, and just give a little bit of time and space for that to happen. And just intend to ask for any clauses in your soul contract that were born out of guilt, out of shame, out of the debt-based monetary system, out of like the belief that you owe people or you owe karma or you have to pay something back, to release and clear 100% from its origin. Ask to have this cleared from your contract, from your body, your DNA, mental, emotional, psychological grid, spiritual grid, core grid. With everything it's created and co-created, all planes and dimensions, and just send it to its proper place in the universe and release all of these old contracts now. Let them go. And just trust that your higher self will know what is still valid for you, what you still need as far as your lesson plan is concerned, and what's been done. And just kind of see yourself signing off on any contracts that no longer serve you, letting them go and asking for upgrades. So maybe you don't need to be a transmuter so much anymore. Maybe you just need to transform yourself into a higher state of consciousness and lead and live by example. You still can help people, but you help them by showing them the way. You don't need to take on their stuff anymore. Maybe if you're an empath and you have a contract to feel everyone's stuff, like that was an agreement that you made, what is it that you needed to learn from that? Maybe you wanted to learn what it felt like to feel ashamed or to see what other people were going through. That's something I had. I really wanted to learn what other people were going through. So maybe I agreed to be very empathic. I mean, I think kind of already was a sensitive soul anyway. But like an extra like layer of intention that started drawing everybody's stuff in so I could go, oh, this is what this feels like. I don't need that anymore. See if you have that and give permission for that to clear. With everything it's created, co-created, all planes and dimensions, past, present, and future. Good. Just like send it out, send it away. See it come up out the top of your head, out of your body. You can call in some guides to help like rewrite some new contracts for you. Or you just trust that your higher self knows what to do and update them for your highest timeline and transform your Lightworker empath role to be in alignment with a new earth timeline. Good. And it is done. It is done. It is done. You can go back and do that again if you need to. Please let me know what you think in the comments section below. Please let me know if you have any questions or concerns. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much. I look forward to next time.